Hi guys, it's Kaylee, and today we're going to be looking at the revenue aspects of your salon or spa business. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit of an in-depth one today, but hopefully we can make it through and make things a little bit more clearer for you. So let's get stuck in. Okay, so revenue. One of those things that most people look at and say, well, I don't really know what's coming in, I don't know what's going out, I don't know how to price myself, don't want to price myself out the market and all of that stuff. So let's take a little bit of a look. Now I've got some notes in front, so let's make sure that we cover everything today because it's a little bit more in depth. But first things first, what's the percentage of my total revenue that should be made from sales? So the reality of things are in the industry that even if you've got hairdressers, a beauty salon, a mobile or anything like that, that basically you should be aiming for 20%, and that seems to be the main average in terms of the return that you get from your outlay. So you could say that, you know, for every £10,000 that you spend out, you should be getting a return of £2,000. Doesn't seem like a lot, does it? But that's the main average in terms of our sector that we're working in. So let's take a look at different things that we can do to ensure that we're covering everything. So you need to look at things like setting targets for your staff. Now that can be something as simple as trying to retail aftercare packs or trying to upsell certain treatments. You know, they're something that should be personalised to every single member of your team. And if you find it hard to talk to them about that type of stuff, then make sure you've got all the figures and stuff for that particular person on hand. You should be keeping records of how much each staff member is making, how much each staff member is costing you, and you should know these figures in order for you to have this conversation. It's going to be something that it's not going to be easy at first, but the more that you do it, the easier it's going to get. And one of those things that you just got to bite the bullet and do it, really. And it is something that everyone doesn't like talking about money. But sometimes you've got to set time aside and make sure that you are discussing these sort of things with your clients and with your staff members. So make sure you give them a small target to start off with. Say, you know, you've got to, if they do lash extensions, for example, you've got to sell 2 aftercare packs this month, and then slowly increase it. You know, we'll go to 4, then we'll go to 6, and then go to I want you to aim to every other client. I want you to be at least selling 1 aftercare pack, just so that you can explain to them how much it will increase in their services. You also need to set financial goals for yourself and for your salon, and a budget to do that. So in order to be successful, you need to have a good business plan in place. You need to make sure that you know what your ideal goal is, your end game. And so the way to start with that is to kind of say, well, why are you doing this? What do you want out of it long term? What's the end result that you want? And then all of these ideas, just jot them all down and then start working out a budget of, well, how much is it actually going to cost me to do this? And then again, rinse and repeat for every single one, and you'll end up with a budget that you need. And then you can start working out priorities. So you can say, well, you know, first quarter I want to focus on these 2 points, then I want to focus on the next 2 and the next 2, and just keep building and building and building. And make sure you revisit these points every 6 months or every 12 months, and that way you can make sure you're on track and adjust them as needed. So it's something that you definitely need to look at. You also need to look at your service pricing. Now, this is a bit of an awkward one. A lot of people don't like charging what they're worth, and here in the UK we definitely don't get paid what we should for our treatments compared to our American and Canadian friends. So understand what you're worth and understand what you should be charging. So for example, the two examples I use with students quite a lot is that we're going to take massage and we're going to take nails. They're two core subjects. Average price of costings for products for doing a standard set of acrylics in the UK is £6. That's without taking into account any additional charges in terms of your insurance, any rent, any lighting, heating, water, marketing costs, that sort of thing. So I tend to kind of say, well look, we'll put it at £10 to cover everything as products and overheads for nails. Then you've got the fact of how much you're charging. So, you know, around where we are, £30 is kind of your standard rate for a set of acrylics, and don't laugh at Americans. And then, you know, you're taking £10 out of that, so you're only going to be earning £20. And then MVQ standards for timings for nails is 1 hour 45, so you're going to be earning £20 effectively for 2 hours, so it's £10 an hour. That's what you're going to be earning. So do you need to increase that in terms of if you're doing more technical work, if you're doing sculpting, if you're doing any hand painting and that sort of thing, because it's a lot more time and a lot more skill that's involved. Then you've got to consider things like massage, for example, where the overheads are a lot lower. So again, we're going to give it the £10 blanket for your rent, insurance and all of that stuff, but the amount that your products only cost is only going to be about £3 to £4. So again, we'll go on an average, nice block numbers, and say, well, it's going to cost you £3 for your couch roll, your oil, and, you know, a towel wash. So it's £13. You're then going to be charging anything from, you know, £20 for half an hour up to £40 for an hour. So if you're doing it on half hour, that's £20 minus 13, so that gives you £7 profit for a half hour's work. Then you can say, well, compare that to 2 hours of nail time where you're making £10 an hour. How much are you going to be making? Well, £14 for 2 hours. So, you know, that doesn't seem as profitable. Whereas if you do it for an hour at £40, you know, you're going to end up with a bit more profit out of it. And so you see what I mean? It's a bit of a juggling game of working out what's going to work best for you, and depending on how much you can charge in your area. So again, look at how much each treatment costs you. It is a bit of a laborious task, but it's definitely something that you need to look at. And once you've done that, you need to look at your discounting habits. Now, times like this where, you know, we've got COVID-19 going on and people are not able to work at the moment. We're on mandatory lockdown in the UK. Salons and spas are not allowed to work because of social distancing rules. And I'm seeing quite a lot of therapists saying, well, as soon as I open, I'm going to be slashing my rates to get as many people in through the door as possible because I can't work. Why? These people are not going to be bothered. It's about whether you've got a discount on or not. They're going to be bothered about the fact that they get to go back and have their nails done or their lashes done or have their massages again. So having a habit where you just instantly slash prices for no reason, it's not doing you any favours because you're not bringing in enough money. I've seen therapists that will do 2 sets of nails on an offer for £20. There's no money in that at all. So definitely have a look at your discounting habits. Work out, using the figures that we've just mentioned, on how much each product costs you and each treatment costs you versus how much you're offering it, and then how much are you actually going to be making from it. Because you might find that actually you need to be focusing on your client and care more than your discounting. Because the margins can be ridiculous. Review your pay structure with your staff. So there are a few different ways that people are mainly paid in the UK in terms of this industry. So you've got an hourly rate if you're PAYE employed, an annual salary, again employed, commission based or performance based. So you need to look at, if you're going to be putting in targets and things, are you going to be adding on a commission on top of their wage as an incentive? Because incentive wise, if you're offering people extra money for being able to just sell just a retail pack to someone, that's going to be a good incentive, and you're going to be more likely to increase your revenue that way, because the staff members are going to want to have that extra money in their pocket. Have a look at your cash flow. Cash flow is something that is pretty easy to get your head around. So review biggest expenses that you've got, look at the wages, look at your stock, look at your rent, include any debt that you might have in the business, and just kind of look at your long-term plan of how quick can you pay off any debt to free up more revenue. Do you need to switch suppliers to a more suitable supplier for your area in terms of quality of products that you use or the cost of products that you use without jeopardizing your salon's ethos, and things like that you need to look into. You also need to look into your cash flow in terms of how much your staff are actually costing you. Do you need as many staff members as you have? Do you need to encourage your staff members to do more to warrant their place? And there's no harm in that, because at the end of the day they're there to make your business money, so you can still be their friend, but at the same time you've got to be their boss too. And finally, you've kind of got to start putting together a bit of a blueprint, really. So start reviewing things on a monthly and then 3 monthly basis, and you'll start to get a bit more of an idea of how much things cost, how much you're actually spending out, and how to start looking at bringing down your expenses and at the same time remaining more client care based and keeping your clients happy and maintaining the standards that you like. So it's not cutting corners, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying look at what you're spending out. So is there a lot of product wastage? Do you need to look at curbing that and making sure your staff are aware of product wastage and how much it costs? Do you go and buy your consumables at somewhere that massively overcharges you for your paper towels and things like that? Can you go somewhere else and find them a little bit cheaper? Yes, it's going to cost you a little bit extra time going to find those things, but it might be something that can then save you a lot of money in the long term. Do you need to put retail stuff in place? If you don't retail, why don't you retail? There's a lot of money that can be made in terms of your staff and your salon's revenue, and also incentivizing your staff through commission methods. So these are different things that you can look at. Also have a look at whether you need to change the dynamic and not kind of have a situation where you're afraid to talk to your staff about what's actually happening in your business. You don't have to divulge everything to them, but at the same time you need to be upfront with them, because if your business isn't making money, there might not be a situation where they have a job a few months down the line. So be upfront and say, look, we've all got to pull our socks up and get stuck in for us to make sure that this works. And if it isn't working, why isn't it working? You need to have a look and you need to figure out what isn't working and change it. So I hope this has helped in terms of your revenue. There are loads of different ways that you can increase your revenue, and there are loads of different books out there. Strongly recommend going on to some of the online bookstores and taking a look at different methods in terms of maximizing your cash flow and looking at your business plans and how to actually work with partners on a regular basis, because if you do a lot of bulk orders, there's no reason why you can't end up with a recurring discounts. You don't know until you ask. So don't kind of settle for just this is what it is. If you don't do something, it's never going to change. So hopefully you'll start getting a little bit more stuck in and start increasing your revenue. So if you've got any more ideas, then feel free to drop them down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys. And in the meantime, until I can produce another video for you. If you can please hit the subscribe button and hit the bell button so you can be notified of any new videos that I release. I will see you next time. Bye.